Okay, so now let me just share the screen. Can you see?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so yesterday I think we ended the class by just thinking about what exactly which part of this this actual experimental setup we are covering in this particular discussion of the Kramer's chronic relationships. So so as you of course remember, I'm sure at least I've said this so many times. I hope this has kind of got embedded in you that what we are looking here is what we are trying to do here is how one can trap a nanoparticle which is inside this kind of a sample chamber dispersed in some kind of fluidic medium which can be either air or water, and I am coming in with a laser beam that is very very tightly focused and the focal spot is very small, so that there are the optical forces that are exerted on this particle are quite large, and as a result there is the optical forces that I'm talking about, they are also of a restoring kind. So basically the particle is confined at the beam center, and any displacement from the center causes the light to sort of pull it back. Okay, so it's like a spring mass system with the particle being attached to the trap center, which is like the trap center is basically the equilibrium position. Particle stays there. So where is the Kramer's chronic exactly coming? So Kramer's chronic, as I said, as I have sort of told you many times, that it's the relationship between the real part and the imaginary part of the dielectric function or the refractive index that we have already described, which of course which originates because of the response of your system to light, in the sense that there are either bound electrons or free electrons and they interact with light, so the light sort of exerts and comes in as an sort of external force, and it so the material has a certain susceptibility, so that leads to a certain polarizability, and that causes some kind of energy change inside, as a result of which the particle also sort of influences the light, and it influences in two ways. It changes the transmission characteristics in the sense that the light velocity is affected, and secondly, which is crucial, is that the light absorptivity, how much the light is absorbed by the medium, that is also affected. And that is where physically we have a very important thing happening in this particular system. So that is, now suppose I come in with a particular wavelength of this light that is being used to trap this. Now depending on what wavelength I choose, this particle can actually become absorptive or transmissive, and that is incredibly important in trapping. For example, if it gets absorptive, then this particle, because remember that the intensity of light is extremely large. Why is it? Because I'm limiting the focal spot to only a micron. So it's like diffraction limited. Okay, that's a term which you may not know, but it is of the order of the wavelength. And suppose the wavelength is like 600 nanometers or 700 nanometers, then I have the focal spot which is also that small. And now if you think of it, if I come with power only of a few tens of milliwatts, I have a very large intensity of even close to like a gigawatt per meter cube in this kind of volume, which is very 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 enormous. Okay, and if the particle is absorptive, then what will happen is this particle basically it'll obviously absorb, and then its Brownian motion will increase because the temperature will get higher, and so the particle starts diffusing around very fast inside this medium, and because of that it becomes very difficult to trap that particle. It will just jump out of the trap very easily. Whereas whereas if it's like not absorptive, and that is what we typically want, where it's like sort of it is like in the transmission regime where it's like it's transparent at the particular wavelength, that is perfect, where I can really have a very very efficient optical trap working. So this is very crucial, especially for metal nanoparticles. because metals, as we just saw, they have a very sort of interesting dispersion thing you have done in the assignment, right? So they have a lot of things happening. There is this plasmon resonance, where that absorptivity increases. Okay, so they have very high reflectivity as well. That might also matter. So all kinds of considerations have to be made to choose the wavelength of my trapping laser when I want to trap this particle. So that is basically one of the main things that one sort of needs to keep in mind in order to design an efficient optical trap for particles, especially if they happen to be metallic, because metallic nanoparticles are notoriously difficult to trap, and that is basically because they start absorbing and getting hot. And if you have a wavelength that is close to the plasmon resonance, it's even worse, because then it gets very hot, and then you can see all kinds of effects. And what is okay? So that there are much more interesting things also, like you may change this nature of the substrate. Okay, so this substrate at times, for example, for very very small particles, if you want to trap, you want to sort of want to increase the intensity at the trapping region very large, very high, very much. And then what happens is, just tight focusing may not work, so you may need to use that evanescent kind of a that regime, where we saw that you can actually, as I hope you remember, that we said that why is the evanescent regime so important, because the wave decays within lambda, so it is confined within lambda. So if I come in, if this has some kind of a metal insulated kind of a coating, and then I come with a tight focusing objective on this, then at the correct wavelength and at the correct angle of focusing, I mean distance basically, between the objective and this cover slip, we can actually excite plasmons on this, and that will basically mean that the light will get extinguished within just lambda of this thing, of this this lower cover slip. So that also is, so that kind of an arrangement, where we use something called plasmonic trapping, there also the wavelength is very very important, and those are essentially used to trap, again, very very small particles, which are typically very difficult to trap by just focusing light, because the smaller the particle, the faster does it diffuse, because it usually flits up very fast. Then you need very deep potential wells to trap. So that is a different, that is much more complex. You need not worry about that so much. But if you just remember that my choice of wavelength is very crucial to decide, whether I have a trap that is efficient and effective, that is where these Kramer's chronic relationships are very important, because they actually tell you they can allow you to absolutely calculate the absorption profile of a particle of some material, provided you just know how it transmits. That is very very useful. Okay, so these are looking at, again, the transmission, the real part, which is dealing with transmission, imaginary part which deals with absorption. So it is the interrelationship of those two. Okay, is that any questions regarding this, guys? Any questions? Rohan, are you kind of okay with this? I mean, some kind of
Yes, sir.
answer?
This is fine.
Okay,
This is fine, I guess.
okay. So now let us just go to where we stopped the last class. That is essentially trying to look at, oh wow, this has come here. Oh, this can't move. Okay, so lastly, I think we had stopped right at this slide where where this thing where we basically talk to you about where my the roots and poles or whatever you talk of, or describe them, of my complex refractive index is. So from here, so as we showed nicely, very interestingly, that all poles. So if you look at Reiner, I mean, he sort of regards all of these as poles, because he basically just regards poles as the values where either numerator or denominator becomes zero. That's what he describes poles as. So that's a bit of a, I know it's a bit of a confusing sort of a description, but what we saw is that all of them lie in the lower half of the complex plane, where you basically have negative values of imaginary omega, and that has deep consequences, as we shall show today, which basically tell you that you can only have finite for any kind of signal propagation. You basically need to have you cannot have velocities exceeding that of light. Okay, so let us just write down that. So we are basically just going to proof of the finite velocity of light. And here, as I had told you yesterday, we'll be using quite a bit of the the Cauchy integral theorem and all that. So I hope you guys have done it. I know you guys have done it. So I will still sort of recount that. So as we saw, so what were we looking at? That there is a propagation of this wave packet, or which is like a collection of pulses going from some kind of a vacuum into my this into a medium which is dispersive, where n is a function of omega, and we wrote down basically the velocity profile of this wave packet. And of course, by the way, so that I think we need a bit of clarification about this. So this is, I think, something which I missed out yesterday. I should probably just talk about this. So when we were writing down this function, u omega, not sorry, this we wrote down this thing about the possible this bell-shaped profile and all. So essentially, what we are trying to say here is that at small times, this is basically going to follow this, and at larger times, essentially, this gets limited by this. Okay, so that is the main thing when we are plotting this kind of a profile. So I think if you look at Greiner, you will see that he sort of plots at short times this is like a polynomial, so he just sort of rises like that, and then he says at longer times it sort of follows, it is dominated more by this, and therefore this is getting sort of bounded by this, and it looks like this kind of thing. So that is important to note, that this is essentially some this kind of bell shape that we say. So the initial part is dominated by this, and the latter part is dominated by this. This is what is the kind of thing that they sort of talk about, and this is useful because finally it allows you to write down how the poles would look like, and as we saw, the poles are existing only in the lower complex plane and all. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that a bit, and now sort of let us go back to here. Uh, so let us just write down this chap again. Uh,
So whenever you're speaking, there is some static noise which is coming. I'm not sure is it
Static.
it is only for me. Yeah, static
Hey,
noise.
are you guys also hearing? I am not hearing anything. Is there static? Oh, sure. Huh?
For me, sir.
What?
It's fine for me. I'm not hearing anything.
It's fine for
Let's
me
to
also.
just you maybe you log out and log in quickly.
Okay, sir.
Just log out and log in. Na? I'll wait. Just 1 second. You log out and log in. We'll wait for a second. Yeah, is it fine, Hitesh?
Yes, sir. Now it's better.
Okay. So as we said, we basically write down the velocity profile, and this is basically just exactly what we had. We had like this is 2 by 1 plus n of omega, and then this is just a of omega e to the I. It was like a of omega x minus omega t d of omega. This was my velocity profile, right? And of course, this we can write, I mean, just taking out this k thing, we can basically write this as minus infinity to 1. by 1 plus n of omega a of omega. Let me just make this in a good form. E to d I omega by c n omega x minus ct d omega. Okay. So basically, our interesting part is this chap. Okay. So there are two types of light cones. There is a space-like light cone where you have x minus ct greater than 0. That is your space-like light cone, and you have x minus ct less than 0. That is a time-like light cone. By the way, this approach was actually, this whole thing was beautifully done by Sommerfeld and Brillouin. Very interesting, right? I mean, they actually use this whole mechanism. So there is a classic paper by Brillouin. I think. Wait, let me just. I saw it somewhere. I think it is in 1960. Oh, there is a book. Okay, okay. He has a book. So there is a book by Brillouin. So if you can find out this book by Brillouin, so it is like 1960. I think the book was written. But whether, obviously they must have done it earlier or something. It was published in, this book was published in 1960. Okay, so this treatment was done. I think very important to note that this guy Sommerfeld has so much in his kitty. I mean, he's a fantastic physicist. Okay, anyway, so basically what this means is that if you consider x minus ct greater than 0, that is like a space-like light cone, and there you are basically saying, so we first considered this part, whether this is being allowed, and this essentially, if my uxt is finite in this kind of a regime, then that signal propagation can happen faster than c. Okay, if uxt is finite in the space-like regime, then we know that your signal propagation can be greater than c. This is very crucial. Okay, so then how do we now we go to this nice way of trying to solve these complex integrals, finding out how they are sort of that is only one way that you treat these things, and that is this Cauchy integral theorem. And also we basically plot the complex plane where we say that this omega 1, that is your real omega, and we say this omega 2, which is imaginary omega. Okay, and we sort of define a contour. So omega, of course, goes from every frequency. So we say that there is basically a contour which goes like this, like that, where this is obviously going to minus infinity, this is going to plus infinity, and we go along the contour in this fashion, and we say that this C is my contour, and this is, of course, my this is the real axis. This is on the real axis, going from minus infinity to infinity, and this is on the contour. So we typically write down the entire integral as the contributions. We deal the contributions from this and from this separately, typically. Okay, so again, so basically we need to evaluate. So we need to evaluate this chap. So I'll just write that down. Basically minus infinity to infinity a of omega 2 divided by 1 plus n of omega e to d. So if I just I can basically write this as a to the I omega by c n of omega x minus ct.
Sir, why did we take the contour in the upper half? plane?
No, it is both. I am just drawing. Okay. Why? That is important to note. So basically, I am trying to look at this for signal propagation greater than c. Okay. So for the signal propagation higher than c, basically, if your x minus ct is greater than 0, we generally we will consider the thing in the upper half. Uh, so that uh, can we sort of defend that? Mm. So when I'm considering this one greater than C, we consider the upper half plane typically. So 1 second, let me just this is why do so essentially when we look at the upper half, it is for signal propagation greater than C, and for lower halves we look at signal propagations lower than C. Just give me a second. Let me just. That's a good question. 1 second. Then we can be sort of. Mm, okay, so why should it vanish for? So see one thing that uh, for the upper half, basically, okay. So maybe what we can say is so if I have your so basically just think of this. So we are considering x minus so basically some velocities which are positive in the sense let me just think of this. So if you have your x minus ct greater than 0, we can consider the velocity wait so basically your no, let's think of this. The omega 2 is positive. Okay, so that let me just think
Sir,
of
I
it.
think
It's
uh,
why are we one
if we
second
take
just
the upper half of the plane,
uh
the exponent is non-zero, which will make the u of x comma t non-zero. And if u of x comma t is non-zero in this regime,
mm.
then the velocity is
Yeah, so
higher.
basically no yeah so if we can show that this is non-zero, so I think what we are trying to say is that if this part it is non-zero, then you are having signals going faster than light. So basically we are trying to say that yeah so basically this being non-zero, so you're saying that typically if I have this part non-zero, that means my velocities are going faster going it is possible to have solutions for velocities faster than light. So what was your argument again,
I was
Yuan?
saying that if we consider the upper half of the region,
uh,
that will make our u comma xt non-zero in that x comma ct region. And if we take the lower half, it will
hmm.
make our x comma ct negative. So if u
Yeah,
comma
so
xt is
basically that
non-zero,
is what we are trying. No, see, that is the whole point. So my no, but the thought that is coming to me is in this. See, we are looking at the omega plane, na. So if I though, so typically the treatment is done over the omega plane. So if
No,
I
so the
if I
aim of this thing is the whole region velocity can't be greater than c. So first we are considering the upper half, then again we will and then we will show that
No, but
that
see, what
clearly
by
go to
only,
zero.
yeah. So what, was some what is just pricking me is, Bishwajit, can we sort of conclude that x minus ct is greater than zero here? Can we conclude that x minus ct is greater than zero at this plane? So this is something which sort of Greiner doesn't talk about at all. So they just tacitly say that this is where we consider, and then we just go about it. But what is that? What is the thing that makes us believe that x minus ct is greater than zero in the upper half of the complex plane? That is what Rohan asked. That is pricking me a bit. I mean, what is, see, we have to consider both. Okay. Now, see, one thing is very clear. Okay, so see, okay, so Rohan, one can answer this in a twisted fashion. Okay, we can go and show that this solution, we have to consider both. Okay, we'll consider this and we'll consider this. Okay, and we will see that if you have x minus ct greater than zero, we'll obviously see now, then we will not have any kind of solution. And obviously when x minus ct is less than zero, we can have solutions. But why x minus ct greater than zero is the upper half of the complex plane, that is
Yes,
something which
there is a
is,
reason, sir.
what is the reason,
There is
Bishwajit?
that we will write that omega as omega 1 plus I omega 2, right?
That
And
is okay,
when
that is
you
okay.
prove that, then when you will prove that integral goes to zero,
That is okay. No,
omega
but
2
Bishwajit,
greater than zero.
that is
So
okay,
when
but then
omega will
no,
be greater than zero,
yeah, but
you
omega
have to
greater
call
than, no, but omega
omega
greater
2.
than, omega 2 will be less
Omega
than zero. See,
no
yeah, so here omega 2 is
greater
greater
than
than
zero.
zero. Okay, and here very clear, omega
Yes.
1 is greater than zero, omega 2 is zero. No, but it is some kind of a, but I see, when we do the proof, you will understand. So we are basically going to say that because it is going to vanish here, therefore it is the upper half of the it is x minus ct is not a proper solution. Therefore, the upper half of the complex plane, it does not work. But why is x minus ct greater than zero? Sort of meaning that this is the upper half of the complex plane.
So this is omega plane. Like I didn't understand how x minus ct is dependent on the omega plane.
It is not. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. X minus ct greater than zero does not depend
This is
on the upper or lower half of the complex plane. Right. So Rohan asked me that.
omega 2 is
Huh? Sorry?
That's why omega 2. I'm saying that when you will do the proof, you have to
Now we will show
consider
that
when you
omega
are
2 is greater than zero. Right.
yes, and
Omega 2
that's
will
why
be
it
greater
is the
than
upper
zero.
half plane.
That is in the upper half plane, right? No, but what Anirudh just, that he laid down the figure on the button, right? So why is, x minus ct greater than zero does not depend on this. Absolutely not. Okay, you can say that x minus ct greater than zero. Yeah, I am. Anyway, let us proceed with the proof. Okay, let us finish the proof.
What is the deal with x minus ct being greater than zero?
The deal is that if we assume this, we will see that there are no solutions in this. Basically, that.
So
Okay,
like
so
I didn't understand the connection between the
it
x
is
minus
not.
ct
No,
term.
I also agree. That is why Rohan's question sort of non-plussed me. I am saying that let us consider. Okay, so let me reframe what I said. Let me just say that let us consider the upper half of the complex omega plane, and we go to a thing where x minus ct is greater than zero. Okay, that is reasonable, right? We are considering the upper half of the complex plane. Okay, I think we should let us proceed. Okay, Rohan, so let us just proceed like this. We are considering the upper half of the complex plane, and we are saying that suppose you have space like time light cone, that there is exponentially greater than zero. Let us see what happens. Okay, that is what we are considering.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Sir,
now
are we going
after
to,
being
sir, are we going to
Please
prove that this upper half plane is not going to work anyway?
exactly. So let us just finish the
Okay,
proof.
so
Then we'll discuss after
I
that.
have a reason.
Huh.
We must have a, UXT that is bound in time, like right in that will be bounded in time. That will be decaying envelope, Right. Now, if we see the UXT expression, which
Mm.
is e to the power minus I omega t. Okay.
Chitradeep, we are going to go in exactly that direction. You are
If
preempting the proof. Okay,
if now
let me
omega
finish that.
is
Ah,
plus I omega, then
eh,
it is going
arey
to
Baba,
be
that is exactly what we are going to do. Let just bear with me. That is
okay.
exactly what we are going to do. Okay, let us revisit this question after we finish the discussion. It is very clear that it is going to work only in the lower complex plane. Okay, but that x minus ct less than 0 and this both work. Oh, I think, see, okay, I think this is how it's going to work. We will basically show that x minus ct greater than 0 actually does not work anywhere. Okay, it will neither work in the lower or in the upper. Both places it will not work. Okay, let us go by that. Okay, I think that's what we're going to see. Okay, just
No,
bear
no,
with me.
no, sir. No,
Huh?
it will not.
Let
You
let
have
us
to
see.
be
Let
in
us
the
see.
upper.
No. I know. Let's finish. Let's finish this. Okay. Let us revisit this after we finish the class. Let us just proceed and finish the class. It is quite simple, this whole thing, but I feel that anyway. Let us just finish. So before I go into this thing, a quick recap of the. So you know that the way we are going to find solutions is that we use the Cauchy integral theorem, and let me just jot these things for you, so that just for completeness, so that nobody has to go on referring textbooks when they refer to these notes. So what does this say? This is the main weapon that we have. So it basically says that if a function fz is holomorphic, what does holomorphic mean? Huh? What does holomorphic mean? Yeah,
say homomorphic or
holomorphic,
mm,
not homomorphic.
Holomorph.
Along a, huh?
The reason
None.
that it is locally differentiable in the complex
Yeah,
plane.
correct. So this is basically in the complex plane, it is differentiable everywhere. Okay, that is the meaning of holomorphic, not homomorphic. That's a different thing. Hmm. Basically, you have this as 0. This is the most important thing. It is completely differentiable. Mane, this is this. And you have, there is another, this one is there, very important. And then you have another thing which is very crucial. That is the Cauchy integral formula, right? Let me just jot that down as well. The Cauchy integral formula. Okay, and what does that say? That says that if your fz is regular in some g and your c is a closed path in g whose interior region GC lies within G, of course, then for all Z that is a part of GC, you have fz0 given by 1 by 2 pi I integral over C fz z minus z0 dz. And so this is basically at any z0. And there is, of course, the residue theorem that also is crucial. Let me write down that here. The residue theorem, which says that
Sir, you
basically
didn't
your,
define what is G and what is Z naught.
yeah, so basically, yeah, no, G is just, that's what, it's a some kind of a region, it's a sort of a it's a closed sort of a space, you can say. Okay, it's like a space which is confined, and this is a closed path there. This is where GC, where interior region lies within this G. Then if you're so Z naught, what you guys know what Z naught is? Huh? What is Z naught?
So Z naught is the point where you have the pole.
Oh, exactly. So these are basically the singularities at this thing, right? So so basically what I am just saying, so residue theorem may so this is, again, I'm defining this fz as a regular function in G, and C is a closed path. See, these are things you all know. I'm just writing these here so that these notes are complete. Okay, closed path within G containing singular points of fz. Okay, so then your basically the integrals is solved as this 2 pi I, just sum of residues in basically GC. Okay, and how do you calculate the residues? So for a pole of order n, your residue A, smaller, order n, then your residue A is given by 1 by n minus 1 thing factorial dn minus 1 dzn minus 1 z minus z0 z minus z0 to the power n f of z evaluated at z equal to z0. Okay, so this is, I think you guys know this well, but I'm just sort of writing this again so that there is no kind of any ambiguity is not there. No ambiguity is there, and you know these things. I think you've covered these very recently, but basically we are saying that unless there are poles, unless there are singularities, this is basically equal to 0, which obviously tells you that in the upper half plane we are going to get nothing, right? But as a consequence of this, we should basically just write down what again we'll write down this the whole equation the way it happens, the solution. So basically, if we just define your minus infinity to infinity f of z dz, if I define that as I, then if I say if your if this I, this one that is along the contour is like given by this evaluated in this path by like fz, if I define this fz dz, this is like within the contour, this is within the contour. This is very bad. They say that this is within the contour. Within the contour, and I say that IC is along the contour. Along the contour itself, right? So basically what you have is this I of this one is basically, so this one is along the real axis, going from minus in. So essentially this along the whole contour. Remember, the whole contour is nothing but this whole thing, this thing, right? So this is along here, and this one C dash is along this, and this whole thing is basically nothing but I plus IC, where this basically your R tending to infinity, right? So this is along the path itself, along the C itself, and this is along the real line. So along this and then along this. So which obviously means that if I want to solve the integral, we have this. If I basically, my intention is to solve this thing, okay? So this is nothing but I along the whole thing minus IC, right? Evaluated R tending to infinity, and we know the solution of this, right? We know the solution of this because this is nothing. This is given by the residue theorems. So if you have no poles, then this becomes 0, and then of course if this is typically mostly this is, this becomes 0 as we make this to infinity. That is also something which we know very well, right? And therefore any kind of integral, this kind of integral which goes from minus infinity to infinity with singularities, typically we just solve using this property, which is very, very useful. So remember, we are trying to solve our signal propagation cases. We are trying to solve this u of xt given by some minus infinity to infinity, a 2 divided by 1 plus n of omega, a of omega e to the I omega by c in omega x minus ct. This is d omega. This is what we are trying to solve. Finally, let me just zoom out a bit. It is becoming too dark. Wow. So this is what we are trying to show. This is what we are trying to solve. Right? And as we know that finally this is the crucial thing. This is the crucial expression, right? So now also, very important. Remember that when we consider this, so our case, this I basically is this. This is our I, right? This is what we want to find out, right? So now, if you just think of this, your this just consider this one, the on the contour, that is on the curve. So if I just think of this along this thing, that is along the contour. So this one, remember that as your omega, mod of omega tends to infinity, remember that your n omega tends to 1. This is clear, right? From this curve, dispersion curve, right? You remember, right? This is like this, and this tends to, as omega tends to infinity, this one goes to 0, n minus 1. This was plotting n minus 1, this tends to 0, so n tends to 1, right? Which basically means that k equals omega by c. This is very crucial, right? So basically, then what we can write then is, when I just write this, this n omega I can just substitute and write down as 1. So see, if I just forget about this part, and this is actually going to be 1. Actually, this becomes 1, right? This 2 by 1 plus n of omega, this is 1, because n omega is 1 at omega tending to infinity, right? So then what I have is nothing but a of omega, I of omega by c, x minus ct. Beautiful, very simple. D omega, very, very simple, right? And now we know that your omega is omega 1 plus I omega 2, which means that I on the contour is nothing but a of omega on the contour e to the I omega 1 by c, x minus ct e to the minus omega omega 2 by c x minus ct d omega, right? Obviously this will vanish, right? Because x, now you have x minus ct greater than 0, right? Which basically means that at large omega 2s, which is going towards infinity, obviously this will vanish. This will become exponentially small.
That's why, sir, omega 2 also needs to be positive.
Yes,
That's why upper.
correct. Nah, but then now, no. That what is important, Vishwajit, is when we do the lower half, then also you will see that
we
under this
It is
regime it will still
negative
be a
omega
problem.
2 lower half, right? Like if x minus ct is less than 0,
Huh.
then we can use omega 2 negative, right?
Yes, that is exactly what we are. Let me just finish this. We are almost there, guys. Let me just finish the discussion, then we'll talk. Okay, we are almost done. So this is very clearly going to vanishes at omega 2 at like vanishes at omega 2 tending to infinity, because omega 2 is positive in the upper half plane. Okay, so very clearly, what does this imply? Absolutely clearly, let me again make this a bit shorter. So this basically implies that, obviously, that your minus infinity to infinity I is this one. And what is this? So that this part, what will the value of this one be along this thing in the whole contour? This is obviously 0, right? Because there are no poles, right? So no poles. So obviously this is 0. So because obviously the residue is 0 because there are no poles, so then this is 0. Nah. So absolutely what we can conclude is that uxt is 0 in the upper half plane. Very clear. And very important, no wave packets exist which move at Vs greater than C exist. Vs means signal velocity. Okay. So basically this means that in this assumption Greiner has done. So I'll not write this here. I'm not sure of this assumption actually. I'll not write this. Let me see. Okay, let us not write this. So at least in the upper half, we know that it doesn't work. So let us see if now let us consider the lower half complex plane. Okay. Oh,
Sir, maybe I'm missing something, but what is like why ID is equals to I plus IC?
no, that is okay. Okay, wait, let me go back. ID na, that is I contour.
No,
So
like
that is the
D
whole thing.
D I mean the domain. Like that's what you want to represent.
Yeah, that's it. So basically, why is it? So this is so what does this say? That this whole domain is this plus this on this. The whole domain is this one, no?
But
This is
sir,
the whole
D is
domain.
you said that is within the contour, and I and IC are the curve integrals. I'm not
No,
sure how
I
we
and
can.
IC is not so. No, this is the whole domain. So whole domain, I am breaking in the real axis, which is this, and the contour, that is this one.
Oh, okay. But on
That
the
is what
top
I
you have
meant.
written that is within the contour. I thought
So
that is
that
the
is basically
area.
how I evaluate
That is
this,
the
na?
area covered in the
Yeah. So how
contour.
do I evaluate this? This is the area covered in the contour. The integral is given by the Cauchy integral formula, na? But this can be written. This is the classic statement, right? The whole area, whatever it is, this is marked by integration along this, which will always extend to minus infinity to infinity, and along this as r tends to infinity. R mane radius tends to infinity.
That is fine. I got confused by the words. Okay.
Okay. Oh God. Now consider the lower half plane, which is like nothing but so here again we will basically this domain again will be just like that. Okay, sorry for this diagram, but basically we are going to traverse it like this. This is C1 and this is omega 1, that is here omega 2. Okay, this is obviously minus infinity to plus infinity. Okay, so again you have, again what we write is this one minus infinity to infinity, I is I minus C dash or C1, whatever I wrote. Let me just type this as C dash. Minus C dash, right? So again, now we just again consider this one. Consider your C dash of I. Okay. So you know that you have omega is omega 1 plus I omega 2. This is negative now. Omega 2 is negative, which means it becomes omega 1 minus I omega 2, obviously. Right? So that basically means that you have C dash A of omega E of I omega 1 by C x minus ct and e to the omega 2 positive now, right? Because this was I and now this is negative because it's omega 2 is negative here, right? So then this is x minus ct d omega. So now does this part diverge? Does this part diverge? It will not diverge because this is less than 0, right? So
simultaneous condition, right, sir?
yes. No, but so basically
that's the
this
thing I was
again tends to 0 if omega 2 tends to infinity, right? So now my contention is that if this is not less than 0, then actually this diverges. Right? So therefore there is a huge problem. You do not get a solution even then, right? So that is, so now obviously you know that what is going to happen is very clearly obviously. So this one is 0 straight, this is 0 no doubt, and therefore your this one, your minus infinity to infinity is I is nothing but whole contour, whole area, this, and obviously you know that now your A of omega has poles. We have seen that has just this has poles at omega 2 equal to minus epsilon, right? That is what we saw. The way we wrote this, it is omega plus I epsilon or something, right? So therefore, obviously, your minus infinity to infinity I is nothing but minus 2 pi I, just the residue at the poles, and that is not equal to 0, which clearly shows that x minus ct less than 0 waves are possible. Right? Now let us come back to what we were discussing. Now my contention is, so what does this show? Clearly this shows if you consider space like light cone, then in the upper this thing it is 0 very clearly. If you consider time like light cone, in the lower contour it is obviously non-zero, which means that, see, remember we have to show whether there is a possibility of finite solutions of this uxt occurring at all somewhere. So very clearly now, guys, if you think of time like light cone in the upper half plane, there is a problem, right? Because again, in the upper half plane, your x minus ct is less than 0. So e to the omega 2 that will diverge. right? So similarly, in the lower half plane, the x plus c2, sorry, x by the x minus ct greater than 0, that diverges, right? So we cannot even evaluate those two integrals or those two solutions. I mean, sorry, those two sort of cases. I mean, so basically what I'm trying to say is we cannot consider the x minus ct less than 0 in the upper half plane and x minus ct greater than 0 in the lower half plane, because in both the cases the integral around along the contour itself, they diverge. You understand? This is crucial. Actually, this is very important understanding. Okay, so remember, our task is to show whether any solutions at all are possible. So very clearly we are seeing that a wave packet which is propagating at faster the speed of light cannot be has zero solution. That is not possible. The solution is zero. There is no solution possible in the complex half plane, where indeed solutions can still be obtained because the contour, the integration along the contour does not blow up. But there the thing becomes zero because the e to the minus omega, that term, the real term, that is e to the minus omega 2, that term, that tends to 0 as omega 2 tends to infinity. In the lower half plane, of course, we see that if you have time like light cones, you do get finite solutions of the wave packet. So this is very important. Okay, basically trying to say x minus ct greater than 0 cannot be hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now
Hello? It's thrown out. I don't know. Is this some Jimmy playing some tricks? I was just suddenly thrown out of the thing. My goodness, man, this has never happened before. I was just
So your
suddenly,
presentation was stuck for like 10 seconds and then you
I was
left.
just thrown out. I just got a message, tongue. There was a sound, and whack, I was out. So this is that 1 hour thing happening, is it? We cannot record more than 1 hour.
No, no, sir. Like I think that is due to your internet issues.
Internet. Oh my God.
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't know. I was just kicked out. Anyway, so I hope the point has been conveyed. Has the point been conveyed? What I wanted to say? Basically, we consider as, I mean, when Rohan suddenly asked me why are we considering upper half plane, I mean, I think what we basically need to show is, if you think of the way we solve, see, our aim is to show, which is basically, remember that this is we are trying to find out. So we remember we are trying to evaluate finite solutions for uxt. This is crucial. And what we are trying to say is using the complex integral, the Cauchy approach, Cauchy integral theorem and the Cauchy residue formula approach, we cannot find out any possible solutions if we go to the upper half plane using time-like light cone and lower half plane using space-like light cones. This is what I wanted to say. Ron, or any other, can we have some comments from you guys? What you think? Ron, is this somewhat clarified now?
Yes, sir. So
Yeah,
I
so
have
the
just
problem is, see, because
one
I
question.
know, I think this is important, because if you look at Greiner, they do not mention anything. They just say, okay, let us evaluate this, done. Okay, let us evaluate this, pakka, finish, done. So I think this is not fine. In fact, that is why, I mean, it's so important to have a discourse. It's basically because you asked that question, and so I think it is important to understand that x minus ct greater than 0 has nothing to do per se, as Anirudh was mentioning. It has nothing to do with space, like with upper half plane or lower half plane. It has not. There is no correlation. Okay, there is no correlation at all. Any other comments? Chitradeep, you were wanting to say something at the beginning. So, do you have any comments?
No, sir. This is what
This
I
is this
wanted
is
to
what
say.
you were trying to say. Very good.
Yes.
So, I mean, were you familiar with this approach before? Had you done this in your MSc or something?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, you have done this in your MSc. Oh, good. I mean, it was taught
Yes.
in class, is it?
In linear response theory itself.
Oh, you had a course in linear response theory, is it?
It was covered in statistical mechanics too.
Ah, StatMech. But there they proved this.
No, this argument was there that why can't we choose this particular upper half or lower half plane? This will blow up, or this will diverge, or
Oh,
this
but
will be bounded.
acha, acha,
Yes.
but was it in the context of the velocity of light, or was it on
No,
a
no, no,
different?
no, 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 no.
Ah,
Different context.
okay, then at least you know that this is where it is most applicable. And our Sommerfield Dada had done it so long back. It's brilliant. Okay. Okay, guys, any other comments? So next class we will start something that is very important. We'll actually start the dispersion relations. That is the causality dispersion, the proper Kramer's chronic, and that has an immense amount of algebra. So I will, yeah, it is a bit, yeah, whatever. And please pepper me with questions. I think Rohan's question was very good, in the sense that it really helps one to set into perspective what is happening. Okay. Any comments? Any questions? No. Nothing. Okay then. Okay. So, by the way, if there are any Bengalis around, there is about an hour from now. I will be there on this news channel called 24 Ghanta discussing COVID. So, anybody is interested to hear, why feelings are and all this thing. I don't know. Maybe some of you are following some, and some very, yeah. I'm sort of obsessively doing some statistical analysis, not modeling at all. Just data, looking at the data and data presentation, you can say, understanding the present state of the infection. So yeah, so people are somehow seeing that, and yeah, they want to. Yeah, so people basically want to get some, hope that everything is fine and COVID is gone. I think I'm going to disappoint them there anyway. So by the way, so I maybe, are you guys aware that there are some people on campus? I mean, not actually on campus, but either the Iser family has been affected. Are you aware?
Yes, sir. And there's a mail thread going on.
So Ritesh has so Anirudh, you are an experienced person, so you don't have any problems, no? At the moment, you are absolutely fine. No after
Recovered.
effects. Huh?
I've recovered now.
No, but you don't have any, because see, I just today I encountered this thing on New York Times which is saying that in the US, every one of three are actually having some very long-lasting after effects. So you have absolutely nothing, no, no issues at all. I mean, nothing, no
Like
irritation or
nothing.
something.
Like
Huh?
I can't like I still like digestive system and all is still not like back to normal. I can't eat everything yet.
But at least not in terms of your. So did you actually have high fever and all? What did you get? I mean, you.
I got like mild fever for 2 days, like 100, 100 only, I think.
So then why did you go to the hospital?
Because I couldn't eat food at all. Like my stomach had bloated or something, and I used to vomit all the food that I used to eat. So I couldn't eat the meds that they had given me. So the meds needed to be like the
It's
meds are
crazy,
important.
no?
So they put me on saline in the hospital.
This is crazy, no? I mean, why the hell would a flu go and infect your digestive system? No? I mean, this is
Yeah,
completely
and
ridiculous.
I had mild pneumonia also, but that went away.
Yeah, you guys, we should discover. So this thing is very crazy, no? I mean, so did you guys hear this guy's talk? Our science editor, or the this thing. What is that guy's name? Brian. This famous editor of science here. We had on the this thing, na, or institute colloquium. This, what is that guy? My memory is going crazy. What was that guy's name? Editor of science. Huh? Hello? Did I get cut off again?
No, sir, you're audible.
That is this guy, yeah. Who is the. Oh, I'm just somehow remaining Brian Johnson. No, what is his name? Bruce. What is his name?
Bruce
Bruce.
Alberts.
Bruce Albers.
Bruce Albers. Yes. Bruce. I am getting old here. Horrible. No, but you saw. Did you hear Bruce Alberts talk?
Yes, like mostly it was biology, so I
No,
skipped
but no,
the
no. I know,
first
of course,
part.
it was biology. But Hitesh, I mean, at the moment, that is what is needed. Did you see the virus? He actually showed that this damn virus, it has some 19 proteins that have never been seen in a flu virus before. This is crazy, no? I mean, and especially Anirudh has stomach problem completely. I mean, it is, yeah, I mean, it is invading people in a way that no flu virus has ever been known to probably attack. So it's crazy, actually.
Sir, isn't that expected? Because that virus basically demolishes your defense system. So any
But
bacteria can come around and play with your system.
yeah, yeah. But see that, but that is the main problem also, no? Because I mean, this immune, this sort of cytokine storm or whatever you're seeing, or or though that's two things, right? It either demolishes your immune system and you get prone to secondary infection, or it is having an exceptional immune response that is, having your own immune system attack you, and that in fact most deaths are happening because of that. The cytokine storm that it's creating, it is going, and your immune system itself is killing you. When you're having these heart
Yes,
attacks.
like the same case with HIV. Like HIV doesn't kill you; it just
Yeah,
demolishes your
uh, but
immune
Hitesh,
system.
HIV is not 1% as infectious as this. If HIV were like this, human civilization would have gone. If this is why, I mean, HIV, we have nothing, right? HIV tumko laga mane gone. I mean, we have nothing now. There is no vaccine, nothing, no treatment till now to HIV. So had HIV been as infectious as this virus, we would have been in serious trouble. I mean, this is a fantastically sort of, highly, it is like explosively infectious, right? And it is really, I mean, no flu virus is known to do this at all. I mean, SARS, all this swine flu and all, वो तो flu ही होता है ना, pneumonia होता है maximum. ये जाके पेट में problem and all kinds of, this is really crazy. And you know what my fear is? Somehow there is this perception, you know, going about that it is gone in India, it is very lowered, and people are merrily going out in mass. तो भूल ही जाओ. It's like people are sort of thinking that it is done and dusted. अभी जाओ मौज करो, whatever you suffered in the last 6 months, now you have to get double the fun back. ऐसा करेगा तो we'll be in very very deep problem, no? Because it's not down. It's not at all. I mean, Maharashtra and all, I think the test positivity is the same. It is around 20% for the last. In fact, after Ganesh Chaturthi, it drastically increased, and now it is the same almost. No, it is
Sir,
around
sir,
20.
the reason is no one cares anymore here. They are just roaming
No, but
like
is
everything
that
is
good,
normal.
Rohan? You know a real horrible crisis that is coming. You know that there is this already. There is a big issue in oxygen supply in India. Already there is a major issue, and people are not thinking that. See, this winter is the time when actually you have flu infections happen a lot. The season change, जो हम बोलते हैं ना, and it has not certainly gone out. And then suddenly, if you lower your guards and you think that okay, merrily सब भूल जाओ अभी चलो झूमते हैं रास्ते में, you're finished. Then we'll be in very deep crisis. Already, if you look, I put on Facebook also. There is this report that has come in. In fact, one of my, there's this research scholar at IIT Kharagpur who actually told me about this. That he was seeing that there's a main problem that's going to come to India if this is not contained now. And really, if people are, actually not lowering and sort of, ensuring that it is not spreading, is the supply of oxygen. Already we are using much more than we are capable of producing, and we have somehow not ramped up the oxygen producing facilities we had during the lockdown periods. We have not done anything of that sort, and I am really really afraid about that, because in the winter anyway these respiratory infections start becoming bad. Delhi and all, the air becomes horrible. Even in Mohanpur it becomes bad. In fact, once Bhapto showed me that he had this pollution map. He actually showed me that Mohanpur and Kalyani and all, the air gets very bad because they start burning a lot of these, these rubbish and tree leaves and all that. The air becomes dense, and then I really am very sort of very problematic. Anyway, you guys take care. Huh? Don't lower your guards. I mean, I'm seeing people somehow feel that everything is gone. It's horrible, actually.
Yeah, yes, sir. We had heard that there will be a meeting with the entire ISA Kolkata administration about the NSEM or something. So, is there any
I don't know. That I
unofficial
did not
news?
hear. No, what we are discussing quite a bit now is this thing about your Google Meet. That is
Oh,
creating, because that
like,
September 30, that free thing is going. So
oh,
that
no,
we have had
because I have
this
seen other
NSEM we have not.
institutes like just open up. So that's why we just wanted to please
No, so
know.
they are getting PhD students back. That I think you know, na? I think maybe final year. Aman, etc. Do you think you can come back? Are you around? Aman, are you there?
I guess they are, I mean, sort of discussing about it. Maybe October first week they will call the first batch or something like
50
that.
years back, no? 50 years maybe.
Yeah,
So
and
that will be
it
not
would be,
bad.
I guess, lab guys would be preferable first, then
No, but
optional.
what I am afraid is that if people, it will start spreading on, I mean, because Shankar Maiti, this, okay, let me stop recording. I don't think there's any need to record this part. Stop recording. Oh, God. So this is going to go in Hitesh's account. Hitesh, it has chosen